Hey there, listeners. This is Shea, and I am owing you guys an update on our game that was played the week before this episode came out, this one for October. And we played, but we didn't play our main storyline because we had some conflict and scheduling issues, because life happens. So we got to play anyway because we have a big enough group that we could still have 4 players on a one-off. So that's what we did. So I actually got to play in this one-off, which was exciting for me because one of my players who's been playing for a very long time was willing to step into the DM chair. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoy playing in his games because he's got this amazing way of telling stories. But the character I got to play was one that I'd had in mind for a while. I got to play a changeling druid, which, if you're familiar with changelings, they're kind of like doppelgangers, and they can shapeshift into different humans or orcs or whatever form that they have seen. They just take on the appearance of that, assuming that they are of the same build. So if they're a medium creature and they've seen another medium-sized creature that they want to shift into, they can do that. And then, as we all know, druids, they take the wild shape of animals. So I could change into people or animals, and that was a lot of fun. And getting to throw in some different accent trials because that's something I'm working on trying to get better at personally. But anyway, yeah, it was a lot of fun because we took some of the characters that we have in our normal game, and then I added mine, and I think we had a dwarven wizard that was part of the one-off, goofiness. And we went to this castle, and the guy that owned the castle was affectionately named the Seeker. And so we were helping him with this quest, with this time-traveling crystal. And so we stepped into this crystal. Well, the crystal shattered as soon as we all got in here. And in order to get back, we had to find all the shrapnel from the crystal. And so, to make a long story short, we were bouncing off of different worlds and following. It was a whole kind of sci-fi-y type one-off. It was just a lot of fun. I give my guy kudos for this one because this could be something that we could use in future one as well to have as a backup for if people can't show up, if we just feel like being goofy that night, whatever the situation calls for. So, but yeah, I just wanted to give you an update as promised. So we will give you hopefully, assuming nothing gets in our way, we will have a update on the main campaign storyline in the November episode release. Thank you. Welcome to Dungeon Master Talk, a podcast by Dungeon Masters for Dungeon Masters. I am Dungeon Master Shea, and with me today, as always, is
Dungeon Master Kyle. How are you today, Shea?
Dude, I'm doing great. My football team is on a 2-week run. My other football team decimated the team they played. But that's not why you guys are here to for me to talk about sports. You're here to listen to us talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And that I am excited for also.
D&D.
Listeners, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come listen to us build a campaign in front of you in real time and have fun talking about Dungeon Master tips along the way. If you would take just 8.7 seconds out of your day to hit that subscribe and like button on your favorite platform of choice, that would just mean the world to us. That would just help us in the algorithms, help get the message of Dungeon Master Talk out there to the masses. If you'd feel so led to do so, please leave us a comment or share your favorite episode with a friend. That would just mean the absolute world to us. As promised, this is the first longer episode because this will release in the beginning of October. And we will be on our new schedule starting with this show right now. The next one will come out at the beginning of November. I think that first Friday in November, I think is what we're going to shoot for. So that being said, just a quick recap of where we were last week. we talked about the group leaving the Oktay tribe after gaining their trust, gaining a tip about where maybe Ma Maw had gone. They ended up in a secret burial ground north of that area. They found the blacksmith with the iron pick in the cemetery.
Very close. Your memory charm is wearing thin.
Yes, it is. And do you remember the name of this blacksmith?
Balden?
Balden Firebrook. Yes. So he was the guy that had taken Ma Maw away from the town, and now we are kind of doubling back to the town of Silverforge where Ma Maw has been returned. One quick point of note, we had talked about this off air, and we try to do this as little as possible just to keep this as raw as we can for you guys, but I got a little ambitious about the level ups in this game, and so I do apologize about that. We went back and we looked through the encounters and things like that, and we decided that the characters should be at probably level 2 by the time they get back to Silverforge instead of 5. So that being said, that will lead us into this week's episode where, okay, they got back to town and it's quiet. Too quiet.
Yep. So, listeners, what we really mean by that is kind of the point now is to establish why will the party want to fight for this town and see it built. Because at this point, we have that little bit of pre-campaign, like, hey, this is where you were, this is what's going on, this is the happenings. They maybe got to partake in a little bit of fun introducing their characters during a little festival. Then there was a raid. They snapped into action. They left said town to be and have spent all the time up to this point that they've actually been playing the game outside the town. So why do they love this place? And that is going to be through the form of everyone's favorite adventure tropes. The help me, I can't do this task, but you can, and you get XP for it and gold.
And depending on who it is, they might give you ale for it.
Yeah.
That might be a thing.
Who doesn't like fantasy ale? Fantasy ale is like real ale, only amazing, and you don't get a ticket for driving afterwards.
And for those of you under the age of 21, it tastes a lot like old apple juice. So there you go.
Also, listeners, I had the sudden epiphany that we said that we were going to cover something and we totally didn't. And so, Shea, here comes the now monthly, was bi-weekly Kyle Disrupts Shea's Planathon. We did say we would figure out how to lay down the trail of clues from the Oktay tribe to Ma Maw's location if they did not successfully roleplay the information out of the Oktay. I don't think we need to handle that right this second because I don't think either one of us came prepped for that, but we cannot forget to do that. And that, listeners, don't worry, as this is part of the one time Shea and I have pre-talked to the campaign that ever happened. Part of that level 2 level up, we are including roleplay opportunities with the Oktay tribe in that level. And then also the skills challenge-esque, looking through the clues to get there if they did not do well with Oktay tribe and roleplay, and how do you find the clues so that they can get XP in that manner, so that either way they go about doing it, they can still end up at level 2 at the end of this first kind of mini arc to help Ma Maw out and save her.
Yep, because I figure like the boss fight, Kyle, would you probably agree they're probably going to walk out with like 150 XP. It's going to be a fairly good fight.
Yeah.
Probably 150 XP per person. The beginning levels are probably going to get like 75 to 100, give it, if you're really pushing them hard, you're probably looking at somewhere between like 50 and 100 per encounter.
Yeah. Trying to get them easily to that 300 each by the end of the arc. To get to that level. If we can get it with some change, that way they're well on their way to maybe they're level 2 and a little. That's bonus points.
Yeah.
So that would be if you're going ahead on it.
Actually, let's go ahead and circle back. Let's go ahead and tie up that loose end for the Oktay tribe.
Got to get my clue hat on. I don't actually have a hat, listeners. I have my imaginary fantasy hat.
I know. I'm missing my hat, but since this is an audio podcast, you can totally see that. Okay, so let's just say they completely stunk it up with the Octay tribe. Somebody came in and failed on a charisma check or accidentally said something that didn't culturally vibe with them or whatever. Okay, so let's just say that happens, right? And the Octay tribe says, to heck with you, be gone, go away. They might say it like that. They might say it, in not so nice terms. But anyway, as they're gone, you're probably going to have a decent nature check and or survival check going into that. You could probably get away with investigation too, because you're actively searching for clues. You're doing all of those things. Maybe if they accidentally drop something, the kidnappers had dropped something, here you go, there's a clue. But probably, I would say, Kyle, probably a solid DC 13 to 15 nature or survival check to find either an old camping ground, find the trail that their horses and or wagons would have taken. I think 15 would be a medium to hard.
Yeah.
13 to 15, somewhere in that ballpark to be able to track them.
This is a story beat you don't want them necessarily to miss, but also one that you don't want to hand over on a platter. So it's definitely not a 10. So I think like I'm torn between 13 and 15 because 13's like
we're
that.
We're going to go 12 and a half, 13 and a half.
Well, you can't.
Good luck rolling that.
They got to be all meat, Shea.
Come on, you can't roll a 13 and a half on your 20-sided die? What's wrong with you?
I can't roll anything above an 11 and you know it.
Okay, 13 and a half. That's what you get when you have a cocked die between 13 and 14.
Oh,
that's how you get
even surfaces, friend.
Who uses wait, you don't use uneven surfaces?
Maybe this is why I've never been able to hit anyone other than you. I need to tilt my table.
Your whole DM career's a lie.
Yeah, thank you for unveiling this mystery to me now, 5 years later.
Glass shatter moment.
Yeah. You're holding out on the secret sauce from me about how you can hit your players and why I can't hit mine.
You never asked, bro. You got to ask me.
I just thought eventually my bad dice rolling luck has to turn around. It just law of averages states that I can't keep rolling something this like bad that. Forever. It is impossible.
Okay, so we'll say in actuality, let's go with 15. That's a pretty standard medium dice roll for a check like this. Maybe, if they have a stealth character, once they start getting closer, maybe having some like DC 12 to 15 checks there for trying to sneak up on Baldwin and or his cronies.
I like that. Like the introducing stealth checks. I think first time you do it, the part like what I've noticed DMing is the very first time you ask the party member to roll a stealth check, everybody else in the party starts thinking about how they word everything about their character's movements. Like
exactly.
I quietly walk, and then you can start doing my favorite DM thing, and I'm like, "Oh, do you? Do you want to roll for it?"
or like there's the iconic like, hey, I see this chest, I'm gonna open it. Okay, roll a dexterity. I stealthily open for I look for traps. I
opened my eyes to look for this.
That's also accurate.
So I like this idea of doing the checks, but I want to just ask because you're the king of this. So if you don't think it fits, I'm going to trust you. Because I do think that you're better at choosing. That's a presidential horn. I called you the king, dude. Get more royal sounding background.
Okay, I'll think of something else.
I do not approve of your choice. Like I call you king and you go presidential march on me. I mean, that's cool. That ain't right.
Okay, so I'm the king of what?
So, choosing when to do a skills challenge. So
okay,
that was like, I like the idea of going checks. That's what I would throw into this if I was making this campaign, which I'm one of the two people doing this, and you went my way, and I think that's cool. So I had to then point out your typical way that I think you would have done if you were solo running this camp. Like, listeners, I believe if Shea purchased this at the end of all this, and this, say like we put this online, he downloaded it. I straight up believe if we go to run this, and I am a fly on the wall, when it comes to these checks, I think Shea would he would skills challenge it, because he'd say, we haven't rolled dice yet, and I'm going to make everybody do it.
I am also that guy that would, in theory, I would actually do back-to-back skills challenges if it called for it. And I feel like sometimes when you get a trail type encounter like this, it would require multiple skills challenges.
Yeah.
Because you have to, you're not just always swinging and hitting somebody. You're trying to find somebody. You're trying to find clues. You're trying to not die. You're trying to heal somebody up. I mean, there's just a lot more skills going on than just I hit somebody with a stick.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask you here, because also this is a little double edged. I'm trying to get better about when I use these, because I feel like I've done it well a few times, and I feel like I've kind of seen it flutter a little bit with my group. So I'm trying to like pick the brain of somebody who I feel like does this a little bit more than me, which is you. Be like, hey, is this a scenario where you would be interested in skills challenging it if you're running this campaign? And so then
absolutely
talk us through, like, how would you structure that? Because I think these checks are perfectly valid and this works completely for it. And you can have each player trying to contribute it, and you can even introduce the concept of helping each other. So if somebody didn't roll well enough, and you can do like, hey, do you want to roll to help them out? And tell me how are you helping them out, and that'll determine what skill you'll roll to help them, which is in a way a skills challenge, but it's unstructured. So by making it a skills challenge, you're going to bring the whole party in.
Correct. And to put credit where credit is due, when I do a skills challenge, I do the Lord Kensington rules that were described by Rodrigo Lopez from Critical Hit, because I think that's probably one of the best ways to do that. And creates a lot more creativeness. I know it's kind of redundant, but it's a lot more creative than just I focus on the skills I'm really, really good at, and I only do those. You have the way the rules are set up, it will force you out of your comfort zone one way or the other. Whether it's by one of the ones that you're not quite as good at, or if you're really theatric, you can go for one that you just aren't good at all, but your dice just decide that, like, hey, I like this skill and I'm going to just be good at this. But weaving them in the way, like, so in this case, right, I might actually do a skills challenge for getting them there. And then maybe depending on how the fight goes, like, let's just say, for example, we do the skills challenge, they find the cemetery, right? And then if they just go in guns blazing and just decimate everything, then there's probably no need for another skills challenge, right? But if they want to all sneak in there as a group, now you have to tell me how you're all going to sneak in, especially that cleric that's got plate mail on. Good luck with that. But, you're going to have to describe it a little bit better. Or let's just say you're in the boss fight and the boss fight goes south. I might keep the same initiative order, but start a skills challenge for y'all to get the heck up out of Dodge and not die.
Yeah, how are you going to retreat type level thing.
Exactly. How are you going to save yourself from this?
Yeah, I think
so. I mean, that's just my thought process on, like, if you were going to run skills challenges in a situation like this, that's how I would probably structure it. And I wouldn't be afraid to go back to back, depending on what the situation called for and how the players responded to the situation.
Yeah, and it also, like, the cool thing about doing it back to back is it also shows the players how they can vary vastly.
Yes.
So a skills challenge about uncovering a trail and journeying to get there, which may even include, if you have horses, some animal handling to get there quickly, and stuff. And then once you're there, a skills challenge to sneak in, notice guards, get past them. Maybe you have to scale something to get there. It also DMs, in order to properly set up a skills challenge, because I've done it great and I've done it bad. The better you do at painting the picture, the more tools you give to them to be creative. So they're not just like, well, I have a high dexterity score, and so I want to dexterously go there.
Nice try.
Yeah,
try again.
So it's like, but if you don't have that mental picture, what are you going to do, right? Like, so there's some dirt because it's the ground. There's some grass because it's the ground. There's a tree in the distance.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you want to do better than I am right now painting the picture is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And just to put a bow tie on this real quick, like, you don't have to describe it like it doesn't have to be a super elaborate thing where, like, you've noticed the colors of history off the mausoleum. You paint the picture well enough that they can take it and run with it.
Having these moments early like this, because listeners, this is still early in the campaign. We're going to be trying to pick up the ante a little bit as we go, but I think like opportunities like this to stop and talk about why we put in stuff like this. It also helps you, the DM, figure out, hey, what level of detail do they want?
Mm-hmm.
And it will change, but find out early. Like, what do they care about? What do they pick up on? What do they not pick up on? What do I need to highlight more? And each time that you're painting a picture, you should be asking yourself some of those questions. Like, don't be stressing. Be having fun, enjoying the moment.
Right.
But each time you're painting a picture, try to use how they responded to the last time they painted a picture to grow it a little bit. I'm not a real life bard. I do not speak the words, and then other people have perfect word paintings in their brain from the words I spoke. I don't do that. And any of my listeners,
I'm still working on that one too.
Any of my players will tell you that their favorite days is when I draw them a map, because my words don't. So I try, and I hope that they would say that it's gotten better with time. It's still something I'm growing in.
We still love him for it. All right, so to break off, so we've talked about how we're going to get them there. Skills challenges, again, DC's about 15 to get them to there. And if they choose to sneak in, maybe another one to, about 15 to get in there and do the whole, I killed the bad guy, save the damsel in distress, and then...
Yeah, and maybe when we put this into like the actual type out at the end of this, we can put primary path as skill challenge. Secondary, here's what you can do if you do not wish to hold a skills challenge. But listeners, if you come to one of those and you've never run a skills challenge, try it a few times. The first time, if your party's never done one, it may not feel like the most natural thing, but I've grown to really like them and enjoy the kind of creativity it can create.
If you do need the rules on how I do the skills challenges, look in season 1. I think it's in encounters. I think we talked about the rules for running a skills challenge, and so that way you can refer back to that material. Well, shout out to season 1.
Wait, wow, we just shouted out past us. High five through the time zone.
I think we just broke the continuum. Let's move on.
So now that's how we got there. Now, the actual, we're back in town. There's, of course, we'll write up in the book, a little bit about, a hoopla of, yay, they're back. We're locking up, Balding. His shame on his, people that love him and stuff.
Dishonor on you? Dishonor on your whole family? Dishonor on your cow.
Yeah, that poor cow. Your hammer did not deserve this, Baldwin. So,
I know.
Now it's, like you said, quiet, too quiet. Here, there can even be a mini time skip, but I don't know if I recommend one. I don't feel like enough has happened to warrant it. But
I was thinking if you wanted to paint a broad stroke over it, I would say no more than a week of activities would probably get you to level 3 for sure. And
maybe during that week, we can say the Ma Maw was coronated. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
I did it?
Yep, you did it.
They had their party, and then now it's the town's settled and things are resuming the new norm, but your statuses as the group that saved Ma Maw, and you're has started to spread amongst people, and now that's kind of the introductory to this. We'll put it more eloquent words. But basically, essentially, the gist of it is now that you've proven yourselves as this adventure group, everybody in town wants your services, and everybody around town wants your services because there's lots of needs. Things aren't going exactly hunky-dory.
The town crier is filling up your mailbox with a bunch of I need this help.
Yeah. Fantasy Gmail keeps pinging. And it is lots of, there's a little bit of fantasy spam, but...
Well, I'm thinking about this, Kyle. This might be a good time for the group to come up with a group name if they so choose. Because some people will be like, the Heroes of Silverforge, or, they'll come up with their own.
Yeah.
But people will want to know how to reference these heroes that saved Ma Maw from being absolutely obliterated by these bandits and these people that they have no idea what they are. But this also could be a good time for the party to interrogate Baldwin.
Yep.
And Baldwin, and try and see if he can get some information. Now, here's what we're going to put in the book. Baldwin is not going to sell out Ma Maw.
Exactly. He is a diehard.
He is a diehard, and he knows the end game, but he's not going to sell out Ma Maw.
Yep.
Because that's how we're going to keep this going.
I think like right here, you made a great point, Shay. There's options, and that's very important at this point in the story because that first little mini arc is what we call linear storyline.
Mm-hmm.
It is this happened and this happened and this happened, this happened. If you follow these beats, you get there.
Bam, 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 bam.
That's not the point now. So that was to cut the teeth. DMing this adventure also allow the players to start to feel out who they are. Now it's time to go. And so the point of this, like what I view this as, it's the first time you're going to give real choice to the players, and it's really got to be on them to drive DMs, and you got to let them.
Yep.
What's going to happen next? Are they going to go help the tavern, as any well-respecting adventurers would do, to make sure that there is plenty of that ale in town? Are they going to go serve, like if Ma Maw has, like we need to figure out what all the options are here. I'm spitballing. I knew that we had that one that we talked about before.
I think also, because we talked about in last week's episode too, maybe the one before that, if you're hitting level 2, some of your classes like your clerics, I think your rogues, maybe your wizards, start getting their archetype. Whereas at level 3, that's when your fighters, your paladins, your barbarians, blah, 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 blah. That's when everybody else gets their archetypes and leveling up and kind of figuring out who they become. So I think this part of the story is going to be crucial for them basically finishing up the training wheels aspect of their character.
Yep.
To really say, okay, I am a blank wizard. I am a blank barbarian. I am a blank bubble, fill in the blank. They can start that process and try to figure out who they become from the Oktay tribe if they made a great relationship with them. Because maybe, who knows, maybe they swing back through the Oktay tribe once they get Ma Maw and get that all figured out.
Yeah.
And they start that process, and then they can finish all of that in Silverforge before the next big thing happens.
So we have Question Balden as a choice that they can do. We have, it's been a few episodes, I wish I could remember the episode to brag it on from this season, that we talked about there's a missing shipment for the bar.
Yep.
Need to go and track that down. And that could be that's an opportunity to do something a little bit wacky, a little bit outside of the other type of encounters that are going to be a little bit more typical along the storyline. There's also any hanging threads on the Oktay tribe if they wanted to go revisit them.
Yep.
So we can include that as an option.
I just thought of one. So like the day of the celebration, like, okay, so Ma Maw gets coronated and then they're celebrating the group that brought Ma Maw back. And as tradition that they've come up with, they have hog races, like big pig races. And so whoever wins that gets like free ale for the night and just something random, something silly, just to get some like rolls going. So it could be like a dexterity save for you to hold on to your pig.
And animal handling.
Yeah.
Perception checks for turns. And yeah, like you can get a little wacky on those.
You could run a drinking contest if you really wanted to. I mean, just...
No, you almost killed me last time I let my character roll forward.
That is another story for another time, sir. We do not have time to unload that.
You're probably right. We probably don't. Listeners, that is a story we will have to cover on this podcast, maybe a bonus episode someday. But yeah, I think those are fun adventures to have in there. I definitely like the idea of including a little bit of wacky options because the point is to make them befriend the town. So it can't all be like be our errand boys.
Maybe not necessarily make them, but give them opportunities to be loved by not only by the community, but celebrated and develop those connections that they can build off of going forward.
I'm also thinking because Ma Maw kind of wants to juice out of all this, and Ma Maw's plan, maybe like the one thing that she didn't plan on was the fact that it's this group that rescued her and not her people.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe this is the very first thing that's ever not going perfectly to plan, because now there's this group. It's popular, so Ma Maw may want to see if she can't earn their favor. And get them kind of under her thumb without being part of her org, because, well, they're not part of her long-term plan. She just needs to know that she can manipulate them. So one part of this, because I like all this other, I like the, earning favor with the barkeep, keep the barkeep a prominent character.
You always keep the barkeep a prominent character. What are you talking about?
Rule 1. And the hog races is an opportunity to introduce some some more NPCs of the town. That's really cool. Questioning Balden is going to be like a wrap-up thread from Arc 1, and also maybe introduce some more mystery. We'll figure out what all he will reveal to him and what he won't, and what red herrings he gives. So we'll have to flesh each of these out, and maybe that's the goal in next episode, that we can deliver our promise. But what I'd like to kind of get an idea of now, so we don't leave it hanging, is hanging. So we don't leave it hanging. Listeners, I am so good at this.
I'm dead.
So we don't leave it hanging that, she's this mastermind character and this one thing didn't go her way. She's not just going to leave that.
Oh, no, of course not.
She doesn't want to hurt them. Right now, she's a darling. Everything's gone as planned. There's no rivals now because Balden was a figurehead rival that she planned to have fall, and also painted her as a victim, but also strong at the same time. She overcame. She survived. She didn't miss a beat. She came back and was like, nope, we're getting back to business. No rest time needed. I am ready. And so she's just earned, everything's gold stars for her. So she doesn't want a black mark on her record right now, or dirt in her eye from this group. And she also doesn't want to lose any of that favor by being against them, or disbanding them, or hurting them. So wants to earn their favor. How would she do that?
The thought that came to my head was, okay, so we have our 4 levels, right? We have our cracked, splintered, fractured, and shattered. So
yep.
Balden is part of a splintered level, okay? So he's part of that group of the organization. What if there are some wannabe gangster people that are of the cracked level that have been a nuisance or a pest to Ma Maw and what she's trying to ultimately do? So she paints the picture of this wannabe gang to be the bad guy that the characters need to take out for her, essentially, that opens up a shot for her to do what she needs to do right away.
Yeah, she's maybe it's kind of one of these opportunities where she's like, hey,
I know you're busy, but
you did this really well. I want to, maybe she kind of wants to deputize
in a way.
Don't want to make you law enforcement outright, but you have great favor with the townsfolk. These people are doing this thing. I would like to hire you on behalf of the town to take them out. You'll get paid handsomely to do so, and also continue this thread of you guys are heroes, and the town views you as heroes.
Exactly. It's basically, hey, look over here. Look what the party's doing. Look at, and then secretly she's over here making sure that her line to bring back Neva to power.
Yep.
She's got basically a straight shot to just go right to it when the time comes.
Yeah. And she's also, maybe this is groups that they've in her mind deviated. They're not doing it the right way. So she's taking out people who would foil her plans.
Yes.
Thwarting my plans. Over there, and she's going to eliminate some rivals, also buddy up to the party, continue this thread of hey, I'm the mayor, I do the right thing, I'm grateful to you guys, you did awesome work, you did great work saving me, we recognized you, you got paid, would like to continue this partnership because you guys rock, and that's how she's pitching it. Alright, so then we have 5 things. So I didn't put drinking contest, which would be
no, that's fine.
6
That's fine.
thing. It can be. So maybe we put that's something we put in the book notes. That's
as an alternate kind of thing.
Parties having a far time in the tavern. You can do this to have fun level thing. I think hog races is a neat idea. I want to keep that in there. I really do. I like that. That's funny.
I was going back to my southern roots and was like, oh yeah, we got to have a hog race somewhere.
See, where I'm from in the Central United States, we would have had a turtle race.
It's too slow, man. I can't do that.
You didn't ride them for obvious reasons because they're box turtles.
I was gonna say that'd have to be a decent sized turtle to hold me
draw
up.
Your circle and start them in the center, and the first one to get outside the circle wins.
So it's like marbles, the slow edition.
The box turtles are a little bit faster than you expect, but
okay, I'll have to take your word for it then.
I caught them easily, and you know how fast I run.
I'm not going to answer that one. Anyway. All right. So we've got 5. Let's list off Let's list off the 5 things that we have on the docket for that week. So number 1, we have questioning Balden.
Yep.
Number 2 is taking out assignment missions from Ma Maw.
Yep, which I have down I put ruffians / wannabe gangsters.
Okay.
Members of the cracked level that she wants taken out.
Hog race.
Hog race, and then also we have the adventure that, like, the ale thing for the barkeep. So
yes.
The missing shipment that's maybe been, the idea here is it's been kidnapped. They're probably expecting to find more ruffians behind this. And I think we can do a little bait and switch on that. It's like, it's not ruffians, but it's actually goblins, or it's actually, you know, introduce something else. Just kind of like, oh, that's not what I expected. This isn't the fight we predicted level of thing.
So my question to you is, where is that ale supposed to be coming from, and how far is it from Silverforge?
This is all something because we do want to get to our advice section of the episode that I thought we could handle next time. So our little cliffhanger, listeners, be thinking about that. And if you have an idea, we've doubled the amount of time now that you have to get to us with that idea. So this is that mid-episode reminder. I'm doing my triad of transition.
This podcast sponsored by...
This podcast is brought to you by...
Kyle's belly dancing.
And I do not belly dance, sir. That was my shoulders.
You're doing this like genie in a bottle type move. And I'm like, what in the world are you doing, man?
You didn't emote. I was a little sad. But I'm glad that you did, in fact, recognize it. But listeners, from this episode drop, it will be 1 month till our next episode drops. So just reminder, this one coming out the beginning of October. There will not be a mid-October drop. There will be a beginning of November. That's going to be our new pattern going forward. So in the meantime, after you listen to this, if you have some time to think it over and you have some thoughts about where that ale could be from and you want to let us know, you can do so at dungeonmastertalk@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on the Facebook, the Book of Faces, as some like to call it, or maybe just me that one time and I'll never do it again because it's a lot more lame out loud than it was in my head. But at the Dungeon Master Talk Facebook page, you can also hit us up on Twitter. I don't want to call it X. So on X,
the site formerly known as Twitter,
DMT the podcast, or hashtag Dungeon Master Talk. Let us know your thoughts. Also, if you're like, hey, that's not near enough, you can let us know that thought as well. We probably will think of a little bit more, or we will surprise you with the reason why that's all there is. Because maybe we don't know yet.
Or do we? Just kidding. Just kidding. On to
I literally don't.
On to the topic of advice. Wait, we have that?
So, welcome to the advice section of Dungeon Master Talk, where the points don't matter and the advice is suspect. So what is our question today, Shea? We let them know last time, so if we're wrong about what the question is, we might hear about it.
They're probably going to throw Rotten Tomatoes through their podcast phones and tablets and stuff. But anyway, we talked about, like, if you're in a fight and you need to adjust the fight on the fly, how do you do that successfully? And how, what are some ways to do that as efficiently as possible? So, Kyle, I think you said that you had to do that in real time in our last session. So I'll let you go ahead and lead with that one.
Yeah, so a little bit of the genesis, if you will, of me wanting to kick it off with this question. Because listeners, this is the first time doing it. We didn't really give you a chance to try to get us some questions. That's totally going to be a thing going forward. If you want to shoot us a question, please do. You always can. We'll always attempt to answer it to the best of our abilities.
Always.
But I had this scenario. My party's finally, after probably about triple the amount of time I initially predicted that they would be split apart when I split them, due to the fact that they never, ever, 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 ever have once done what I thought they would do since I've given them the freedom of choice. They're coming back together, so I'm thinking they're going to be hungry to reunite. These next 2 encounters that I have planned, it's going to be full party. Finally, I can finally plan out combat worthy of the size of our party. And so the first one, I planned for it to be kind of a tune-up, and it's proven a little bit harder for me, but the really hard one, half of our party went underground to kind of take on what, in my mind, was like a mid-season finale fight. Like I wanted it to be hard. I wanted there to be the risk of players going down. And I wanted this to feel like worthy of all the buildup, worthy of all the work that they went through to come together again. And instead, my druid and wizard and rogue decided they got this.
Yeah.
And admittedly, in hindsight, listeners, I did tempt them. And
yep.
I thought cooler heads would prevail.
Nah.
I was wrong. And I should have known better. And
yeah.
I will grow from this knowledge of my party. But it was too little too late, that recognition in hindsight. And that hindsight only really came when I listened to it back. I was all ready to put the blame on them, but I did listen to it back. I did tempt them. But regardless, they're down there fighting this fight. It's 3 of them plus 2 little level 1 goblin minions that the rogue has acquired through interesting conversations with the god. The campaign has gotten wild, y'all.
He's not wrong.
But anyway, this is a earth elemental that's juiced up because it's got this superpowered gem embedded into its forehead that makes it a lot stronger at whatever it's best at. That's the point of this gem. And so this earth elemental is very strong. The gem makes it very much stronger.
Solid as a rock.
Exactly. These 3 go down there with the goblin minions and they decide to fight it. And as planned, so that it's actually going a little bit better than I thought they would. They're hitting it. It's gaining back life a lot. So like it's not like they weren't winning, but they weren't losing. And I was quite impressed. So I went ahead with phase 2 of this encounter, which has introduced their biggest rival up to this point, who was the final boss of season 1. And that's where this took a turn. And I realized right then and there I have done the bads. Because this is beyond deadly. It's flat impossible. And I have wronged them as their dungeon master. I have not been kind and benevolent. And so I had a choice. And listeners, I want to tell everyone what I did. And then I kind of want to talk about in here, like options I could have done. Because there's the gift of hindsight. There's also, of course, was always the option to just let it play. And I did not quite choose to do that because given that everything that kind of led to this, and everything that was going on in the other fight that was happening at literally the exact same time, so help was not coming, I felt that I needed to back off. And so I literally skipped 2 of the villains in the combat. They had the big bad wizard had summoned 2 giant spiders. I stopped them. I didn't have him use them. And that was because having them in there, it was insane levels. I also decided in the moment to lower his hit points to have him be beatable. His AC was a little bit higher, and when he first showed up, I had him flash some of his cool fancy spells to showcase the fact that he was stronger than he was at the end of season 1, just like the party was stronger. And I ultimately let there be a moment where they got to pound on him, get to a point in the combat where he pieced out because he didn't want to die.
Missed him by
and
that
the earth
much.
Elemental, yeah, you guys actually got pretty close.
I know.
But the earth elemental also saw an opportunity to fulfill his role in protecting the gem embedded his head and return to his slumber. So they're in a pause right now. And I did that because Shea's character was in death saving throws. Both of the goblin minions were in death saving throws. The wizard was down to single digit HP. And the rogue wasn't looking too hot either. And like I said, help was not on its way. And also there wasn't a storyline reason for the party in the other fight to know where they were at.
True.
And so not only was help not on the way, but like the ability to find their dead characters, if it went that way, was looking less and less and less likely as combat went on. And I made sure that they felt like I flared it a little bit, add some mystique, tried to make it not feel like a total failure, but also not a victory. And so then listeners, I wanted to bring it up here because later I was like, I obviously misprepped and misjudged the call of bringing in the big bad, and that's on me. But I also just kind of want to talk over how I handled it after that moment, and if we think that was right.
So I don't think you were wrong. I think that you handled it well. And that's as somebody who was rolling death saving throws the whole night. That's just what I get for missing 2 sessions. You know, it's just that's the way the dice roll. And that's not on Kyle. But switching seats, I would have done maybe something similar. The only thing is I probably would have left the HPs where they were. But I think what I would have done is just kept it all in character. And if for some reason all of them went down, I probably would have just had like a fade to black moment and then have somebody from the keep that we were trying to defend come and drag the bodies back in to an infirmary or something like that, so that way they could heal. Let them lick their wounds naturally. And then once the party outside figured out what was going on, then they could come and reunite with the downstairs, which we still might do that because they don't know what happened, and that's fine. And these guys do a really great job of just staying in character and not metagaming and stuff. It's really awesome. But I mean, honestly, I really wouldn't have done anything different than what you did. I probably just would have let the scene played out, go fade to black, maybe as like the last person is falling, have the big bad wizard go, ha, ha, you're still not strong enough, and just like poof, fade to black.
That definitely would have ended on a different feel than what I had it end on.
Yeah.
Which is this like, what the heck just happened feel. Because he ran off, they weren't able to get to him, and then their earth elemental was gone as well.
I mean, granted, it would be like 2 people walking into a forest and only one of them's going to walk out, kind of thing. But at least we made him stagger out of the forest, so to speak. Even if he's like wiping blood off his face and just beats a heck in a handbasket, but all 5 of us are laying on the ground, basically pleading with the deities for our lives. He could, have some quick comment as the last one's fading, and just because our whole party abhors this guy. Like, I cannot put a stronger word on it. Like, we abhor this guy, and the fact that he beat us yet again would just keep twisting that knife so much harder. And just like, we will do anything next time just to bring that dude to meet his maker and take everything,
yeah.
At least that's the way I feel. I mean, I'm sure I'm probably speaking for the party, but
I think you are, judging by the reaction, because the players that weren't there in that combat when I had him come in,
yeah,
there was voiced jealousy that they weren't there. Even though they were fighting other major villains of the season so far.
Yeah, they were doing great.
Yeah, and having a little bit more success.
Yes.
But they also had more of the party.
We were just holding our own until we couldn't.
I don't know. I was torn on that. And that's actually something I did consider. And the reason I faltered on that was because, honestly, I think I did another DM. I knew the motivations of this evil wizard.
Mm-hmm.
But the earth elemental, like his level of thought beyond protect this, how I had him built out wasn't very high. So I was having a hard time in that moment of how far would he go? Is downed enough for him? Or does he need you to be unable to ever rise again? Unalived, killed, any way that we want to put that on here.
Yeah.
Is that the level that that earth elemental will go? And so what I had debated on is like, is there a moment where he's like, the power in here is too much, and to protect this, I got a piece. And that's what I was kind of looking for, is a moment to happen where it's like, would this get him to be like, yo, it's too much? And cause he even showed he was equal opportunity. He attacked the wizard when he came too close. He attacked the good guys. He downed Shea.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the wizard showcased a lot of power, good wizard showcased a lot of power to hurt the evil wizard, the earth elemental was like, oh, you're not a wimp. And that was my justification for why it was like, I'm moving. Like, I have plans for how to progress the story forward beyond this below ground and above. So I don't want to voice them out here to spoil it for Shea. It's why it's hard to kind of talk about it in this setting.
Well, okay.
Because I've, like, since then, I've also wondered, like, should I have just had, like, the evil wizard take one hit from this earth elemental and be like, I came in too soon. I'm going to go leave the spiders and the elemental to fight. And then that way it stepped up a little bit. Because I did think of that in the moment. I like your idea of the fade to black. And I don't think what I did was necessarily wrong.
No, not at all.
The players still felt like there was the sense of he got away again. And that's kind of been his MO. He either trounces them or he just always gets away.
Or he trounces us and then gets away.
Yeah. Like, I know that there's a not this podcast are family friendly saying that they say about this evil wizard. He got called that again when he got away.
It's true.
And that's a win for me as a DM, because as long as that there's still that hunger to get him, then I don't feel like I messed up the encounter with him all the way.
Can I interject for a second?
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
So I was listening to what you were saying, and like I was looking up in the monster manual, like about elementals, and they are their own character. But from the little bit that I've just read about them, like they're not smiteful.
Right.
Like by nature, they're not smiteful. They're just the whatever element they are, right? So,
yep.
And since the gem made that elemental more of what it was, I think you were right within your DM discretion to just let the gem do, like just save the gem basically. Because I didn't see anything where it was like, must protect at all costs, must destroy, like absolutely obliterate everything that tries to steal it.
Yep.
So like, I think that was good. If you would have played it the other way and said, okay, they're very territorial, stuff like that, I could even see like the elemental like sucking them underneath the ground, like into like a holding place, and then we would have had to dig ourselves back out of it, or like escape from it, after we got the gem or whatever.
That's actually an idea I did not think of.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think that's because I didn't grant this one that high. Like, when I was making him out, I had honestly a little bit of struggle of determining what I wanted the defender of this gem to be. Mm-hmm. Because the last time that the party found a gem, the defender of it really fit the flavor of what the gem was, which that gem's whole thing was it could resurrect the dead. So it made sense that what was protecting it was like spiritual thing.
Correct.
That was alive to defend it because the gem was there. Now we come to this one where this gem's is all about like, if you're strong, you're now really strong. If you're smart, you're now like really smart. If you're fast, you're like really fast now. That's the idea behind the gem. I was like, what? I kind of put myself in a corner.
Right.
When I made this gym and I didn't realize it, I had a long time to think of it. And admittedly, for a long time, I was coming up empty on my thought wheel of it. So I was just literally reading the DMG like 3 weeks prior to creating this encounter, which was about a month prior to when it actually happened. Mm-hmm. And I was literally just reading the monster manual, just trying to find something that I thought would be fun. And I came across elementals and I was like, this being underground, this gem, and being what it is, it could have created this earth elemental as its protector. And because it's basically summoned the essence of earth to it to defend itself. So it's like, what I was kind of thinking of is like, this wouldn't be quite like a normal one that's like, maybe if you leave it alone, it leaves you alone type deal. It's like, you're clearly after this, and I got to make sure you don't get it.
The only other thing I thought of was like, instead of like sucking them underground, it was like casting like Maximilian's Earthen Grasp or something like that, and just like the earth is like holding the bodies of the players in this like plateaued grasp type thing. They're just being held captive by the earth, but on this like plateau type thing, if that makes sense. So like, yeah. It's just holding the body there. It's still imprisoned. It's still like wrapped in dirt. Like like the earth molded around them and just like cocooned them basically, but not like to the point where they can't breathe.
Just like you are full body and clear. So kind of like you don't know this is why you wouldn't think of this because you didn't watch it, even though I keep plugging it. And eventually you will watch it because if I plug it enough, you will. And your kids are about old enough. Not yet, but getting there. Avatar Last Airbender Boomy with the sugar cube crystals. encasing all them. And so, you have to watch Avatar: Last Airbender one of these days to understand any of my references.
I have base. My players have been trying to get me to watch that movie for the whole time we've played this campaign, and I have yet to watch it.
Do not watch the movie The Last Airbender. Don't. Don't. It's not real. It didn't happen. No.
Okay. Good to know.
No. Watch the TV series. Season 2 of The Last Airbender. Okay, this is going to turn into a Last Airbender fan podcast. And I'm here for it. We're years too late. So it will not be popular. But I'm here for this.
Oh boy.
Season 2 of The Last Airbender is like one of the best. Like that season is near perfect. It's like Chef's Kiss.
Okay, good to know.
And then all the sequel series, Legend of Korra, is amazing.
All right.
So listeners, we're done. We're back to D&D. You all know now. I really love the Nickelodeon cartoon shows. Avatar: Last Airbender, Avatar: Legend of Korra.
All of that to say, like, I honestly, to really bring it kind of back to full circle, like, I don't think you did it wrong. And I think you honestly played it well because you played them in character. Whether the spiders actually attacked us or not is, it's redundant because spiders have a mind of their own. And sometimes, like, in theory, the spider would try to eat if they could. But at the same time, like, they might also take a second to be like, what is it that's trying to hit me? Obviously, it's a spider. They're not going to have that high of a concept, but like, it's not un-animal-like to like take a second and like square down your opponent, like growling at them or hissing or whatever spiders do when they try to fight something, and get ready for it.
Yeah, my justification for it was, so this big bad, he summoned them, and so I was like, he maintained some level of control.
Yeah.
And I left it up to his pride getting the better, because I
like that too.
Yeah, I really, really want the villains to feel like they're also player characters.
Agreed.
So they have stuff that they're doing when the characters aren't there. So when they're not in view of the characters, they're progressing. There's stuff that's been going on. They've had story threads going on in dynamic shifts. And his fatal flaw of season 1, I kind of wanted to show that he wasn't fully past that same fatal flaw. Why he did not win at the end of season 1, even though he was powerful enough to win, was because of his own hubris, his pride. He got too cocky and too showboaty in the fight, and it bit him.
Mm-hmm.
And he completely discredited the rogue in the fight at the end of season 1. He also belittled the party wizard at the fight in season 1, and fortunately enough, those two are in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And when he sees the druid get downed, he believes that this is a piece of cake. I don't need my spiders. I am so much more powerful than these two schmucks because I've grown, and in his mind they haven't. Mm-hmm. Even though they have. And so that was my justification of why he kind of called him off, because he's like, in his first little exchange with the party's wizard, he came out on top. So he's like, I got this. And then he didn't come out on top. And so this is continuing his kind of growth of learning from his hubris, always getting the best of him, turning him from this showboat cocky, always getting by with his plans off of his power, to maybe needing to be a little bit more conniving, a little bit more pre-planning, which might deal a blow to his self-image of himself too.
Yeah.
So a little bit of growth moment and evolution for him, which may not be good for you guys.
Probably not, but we'll act like the Avengers. We'll lick our wounds and we'll come back and beat him up. So,
or your second characters were, whatever happens first.
Probably both. It's probably going to be a mix of both by the time this thing is all over. But all right, any last thoughts on that? Or
so, listeners, as with any topic, Shea and I do not consider ourselves the world expert on any of these things we cover. We just
speak for yourself.
Okay, well, I don't consider myself a world expert on any of these subjects. And so, listeners, a lot of this we bring up because we want to grow as well, but also because we want to share what experience we do have with you to hopefully help you have more fun when you encounter the same stuff as well. So, listeners, if you would have handled it differently, or if you just have thoughts, or maybe just a slight different twist even, You can let us know at dungeonmastertalk@gmail.com or at the Facebook page or Twitter page or in the comments on the podcast. That one actually helps us a ton with the algorithms if you leave a comment. I know not all the podcast listening ones let you do that, but on the ones that do, it does help us place better that's that engagement that we love so much. But that's only if you don't feel pressured. We just appreciate that you're here with us listening to this. It blows our minds, and we cannot thank you guys enough. We greatly appreciate it. And from all of us here at Dungeon Master Talk, I am Kyle.
And I am Shea.
And we will see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.